A very good afternoon to everyone. Today we're here to celebrate PTU's 11th Convocation ceremony. So let's have an applause for that to warm up with. And this truly promises to be a very memorable day as we have with us four esteemed dignitaries. To start with, Mr. Madan Mohan Mittal, Cabinet Minister for the Technical Education Department, Government of Punjab. Next up, we have Mr. Arjun Manotra, ex-chairman, Headstrong, co-founder of HCL. Mr. Sunil Kant Munjal, joint MD of Hero Motorcorp. Dr. Rajneesh Arora, Vice Chancellor, Punjab Technical University. The honor of being graced by these esteemed dignitaries will not be limited to the 125 students sitting in this room. We are a technical university and we are leveraging on our DNA, and we are going to be webcasting this footage to over 2 lakh students across the university sitting in their respective colleges. And before we start our discussion, we just want you to know that though I might be posing the questions in English, you are most welcome to ask questions in English, Punjabi or Hindi, and you all are most welcome to reply in either or language. Okay, so before we open up the question and answer session to you, we are going to ask a few questions, very brief questions. So these are students in their final year, and I'm sure all of y'all have been through that phase. So this day marked a beginning. How was it for you? What were the priorities? What were the thoughts that went through your mind when you were in this same position?
When joined or final?
Final year.
Very interesting question. You see, ਜਦੋਂ ਬੱਚਾ ਸਕੂਲ 'ਚ ਪੜ੍ਹਦਾ ਹੈ, I remember ਜਦੋਂ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਸਮਝ ਆ ਰਹੀ ਨਾ ਜਦੋਂ 10th ਕਲਾਸ ਸੀਗੇ, ਉਦੋਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਹੈਡਮਾਸਟਰ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸੀ ਬੜਾ ਅੱਛਾ ਹੈਡਮਾਸਟਰ ਸੀ। ਉਹ ਇੱਕ ਓਪਨ ਕੁਐਸਚਨ ਦਿੰਦਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਸੀ ਐਸੇ ਲਿਖਣ ਵਾਸਤੇ। ਇਫ ਯੂ ਵਰ ਦੀ ਪ੍ਰਾਈਮ ਮਿਨਿਸਟਰ ਆਫ ਇੰਡੀਆ, अगर ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ प्राइम मिनिस्टर ऑफ इंडिया बनाता है ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕੀ ਕਰੋਗੇ, ਇਹਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਐਸੇ ਲਿਖੋ। ਉਹ ਤਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਐਸੇ 'ਤੇ ਲਿਖਦੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਸੀ ਵੀ ਅਗਰ ਅਸੀਂ ਪ੍ਰਾਈਮ ਮਿਨਿਸਟਰ ਬਣ ਜਾਈਏ ਤਾਂ ਸਕੂਲ ਦੀ ਸਿੱਖਿਆ 'ਚ ਸੁਧਾਰ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ, ਸਸਤੀ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ, ਵਧੀਆ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ, ਕਿਤਾਬਾਂ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਸਬਜੈਕਟ ਦਿਆਂਗੇ, ਉਹ ਸਬਜੈਕਟ ਦਿਆਂਗੇ, ਉਹ ਸਬਜੈਕਟ ਦਿਆਂਗੇ। ਉਸ ਵਕਤ ਦੀ ਇਮੈਜੀਨੇਸ਼ਨ, ਬਟ ਨਾਓ ਦੀ ਵਰਲਡ ਇਜ਼ ਟੋਟਲੀ ਚੇਂਜਡ। ਉਸ ਵਕਤ ਟੱਪੜਾਂ 'ਤੇ ਬਹਿ ਕੇ ਪੜ੍ਹਦੇ ਸੀ ਅਤੇ 9ਵੀਂ 10ਵੀਂ ਮੇਜ਼ ਕੁਰਸੀਆਂ 'ਤੇ ਬੈਠਦੇ ਸੀ। ਅਦਰਵਾਈਜ਼ 8th ਤੱਕ ਕੋਈ ਬੈਠਣ ਦਾ ਅਰੇਂਜਮੈਂਟ ਸੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਸਕੂਲਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ। ਮੋਸਟ ਆਫ ਦੀ ਸਕੂਲ ਵਰ ਲਾਈਕ ਦਿਸ। ਵੈਨ ਆਈ ਵਾਜ਼ ਇਨ ਦੀ ਫਾਈਨਲ ਈਅਰ of my law, I had thought that I will go in the profession, do law practice, but simultaneously I will definitely do for the service of the society, some way or the other. I was a student leader in the government, in the 4 professional college, and so I remained during law college. So I was general secretary of the Vidyarthi Vichar, organizing the students. Of course, at that time the students and teacher relation were different than today. बहुत थोड़े बच्चे एजुटेशन हिस्सा लेंदे जोर करते थे। और मेरा शुरू तो विचार सी कि राजनीति जाना है और वकालत करनी है, लेकिन इलेक्शन आने का मचा नहीं सी। इट इज़ माई पार्टी विच डिसाइडेड एट पुट मी इन द इलेक्शन, and I had also the idea that at a certain stage I will leave the practice and do only the service of the society. So after doing 35 years of active practice, leading practice, I left in 97 when I took the oath as minister for the first time, and thereafter I left, never thought of going back to the courts. Being a leading lawyer, I have never gone to my chamber never gone to the courts, never saw what is happening there. So what I want to convey, that whatever you think today, in the final year, you can achieve. But you can achieve if have the mission the day you leave the institution. Go with a mission. कि भी मैं ऐ करना है, मैं पढ़ाई की है, इस पढ़ाई के जरिए this is the service I can do, and this is what I can do, and everybody who has this desire and vision, there is a way, and you will be successful and do everything. दुनिया नू मोड़न वास्ते अपना मन बनाना पड़ता है. आम जनता दुनिया ना चलती है, लेकिन हीरो वही कहलाने, लीडर वही कहलाने ਜਿਹੜੇ समाज च कोई तब्दीली लेके गया. सो मैं तुहानू बिल्कुल विश्वास ना करना कि अगर तुसी जरूरी नहीं कि थोड़ी सब दी फैक्ट्रियां होंगी, और बट जे तुसी मन बना के चलोगे कि मैं करना, God helps those who help themselves, and go with this mission. I assure you will be successful, do lot of service to the city, to yourself and to the country. और जो those are be the mission जो जी सारा ने किया वो थोड़े द्वारा पूरा होएगा और जी कर सकते हैं.
Thank you so much. What about y'all? Would y'all like to comment?
Go ahead, Arjun.
Sunil ji.
Okay, so when I finished at IIT, my undergraduate, I was very clear, unlike a lot of my other friends and batchmates. I wanted to do research, I wanted to do my PhD, and I wanted to get into academics or research. I didn't even apply for jobs. I had only applied for this DCM job because my mother had sent me a cutting, and I'm a sucker for logic. And she had one line in it, which I still remember, which said, interviews are like exams. The more you do, the better you are at them. And just to acknowledge that logic of that, right, I filled up the application and sent it. So I came to Delhi, I had admission, I was trying to get my visa, do my GI, whatever, work, that whole thing. Two things happened. One is, a friend of mine wanted the DCM job quite desperately. So he gave me a logic, said, why don't you do the exam? There's some people who are very good, but they're very nervous. So he's an IIT guy, but nervous. So he said, why don't you do the exam? I'll copy from you. We call it topo. If we get caught, you don't care, you don't want the job, I'll take the risk. Again, logic. Said, theek hai. So I did the test. We both got through, and my interview was one day before his. So he said, go and check the questions they ask. So I went, and he got knocked out, and suddenly some 8,000 or 12,000 people do the exam. You're down to 30. They're going to take 8 or 12. So then it becomes an ego thing. I must go for the final interview, see if I get the job. So I decided that I was doing for myself. In the meanwhile, I had sort of decided who I wanted to get married to. And so I talked to the sister of a classmate of mine. So I talked to her father, and he said, you mad? I'm not going to get you married. To get her married to someone who doesn't have a job. Confirmed job. So I thought to myself, and that's how I became an entrepreneur. I took the biggest decision of my life, I still remember. I said, let me take the DCM job, let me work for 1 year, get confirmed, get married, then go and do my PhD. Once you're married, no one's going to say anything. So that's really what happened. Unfortunately for me, DCM decided to get into electronics, and there weren't too many electronics engineers in a fertilizer, food, textile company. So I got given disproportionate responsibility. And so I stayed on, it's just one of those things. But life is, as Mittalji said, life is never what you want it to be or what you think it's going to be. You've got to, how should I put it? You have to be ready for changes and accept anything that comes that you think is a better opportunity or something that you need to do.
Thank you so much, Arjun ji. That is one of the most unique final year stories I have ever heard. Sunil ji, would you like to address the question?
So when we left school and joined college, actually 3 of us in this room are from the same school, it was actually a dramatic shock. We were taught in school, treat each other absolutely the same. In our school, nobody was allowed to wear a watch or expensive kids or any fancy clothes at all. Everybody was called either by their first name or by the roll number, or by whatever pet name. Everybody gets a nickname in school. So, and those names stick for life. So there was absolute equality in that sense, and the only focus was in trying to learn from each other and see if you can excel at what you've picked, but try and do social service alongside whatever else you do. So when you joined college, things actually didn't seem to work in that manner. Real life seemed quite different, which is why I made the comment earlier. How many of you were outside in the convocation? Any of you at all? No, so it's none of you. So I was making this comment earlier outside exactly about this. The real life seems to be different from what we learn when we are actually studying. So, and then when college was about to get over, so I was actually wondering, would you get a similar shock again? Although in college life is quite different, I was actually surprised to see some of you wearing uniforms. So I was asking the Vice Chancellor just now, because when you were in college there were no uniforms. You just came in whatever clothes you chose to from home. And because our family had been in business, so at home the conversation on the dining table used to be about business. So there was a fair degree of exposure already to work while I was still in college. And we had two families living in the same house, our family and my uncle's family. And my dad and my uncle would discuss work all the time with each other. So we heard a lot of this conversation. And so I said, I've kind of picked up what's going on. It's very interesting, but wouldn't it be fun to do something different, do something new? So I was very fortunate actually. I got an opportunity post-graduating to first for training for some time in 3 of the different companies, including working on the actual shop floor. This is something we attempted to do with as many people as possible, is to expose them to different aspects of the work. So working on the shop floor in the factories, working with the clerical staff in the offices, then moving on to purchase department. I got the opportunity of heading up a new project which was being set up by the group at that time, which was in the area of completely different from what we had done before. This was a spinning mill. First time our group was going into a new business. First time we were setting up a listed company. First time we were taking a loan from financial institution. We had never done this earlier. So it was a fantastic experience, and the business completely failed. It didn't work. Now it was interesting that what happened was literally the day we started this company, India had its biggest textile strike. You were all too young then. Some of you may know that Bombay and Ahmedabad used to have the biggest textile mills in India, and many of them have still not opened, by the way, which is the land which is now being converted into shopping malls and some of those. So we had this fantastic plant, and I'm told it was probably one of the best plants set up in India at that time, because we traveled around the world to figure out what is going on in the industry, what is going on in India, and whether we could do something reasonably distinctive so that it would stand out from day one. It did actually, I'm told, because we subsequently sold the company, and the chap who bought this, he called me later on. He's saying, Sunil Babu, maza aa gaya. They had 10 companies of their own, 10 plants. He said, we've never set up a plant like this. So there was a lot of learning, and I'm saying in spite of that company actually failing, we didn't sell it right away. We waited to turn it around, even though there were no big customers. We became the first exporters of that kind of yarn from India. So there were many new things that one got to do. So I felt completely blessed. I think I was very fortunate to have actually got that kind of opportunity. And those experiences have been useful subsequently in life when you do other things. So the point I'm trying to make is, if you can figure out what you like, try and do that, and don't get discouraged by hurdles or even by complete failures. There's learning in all of them.
Thank you so much, Sunil sir. Truly, failure is the stepping stone for success, and that is an inspirational note for all the final year students here. And now, Dr. Rajneesh, would you like to address the same question?
I was in final year of BTech at IIT Delhi. Just like other students, we used to interact with our seniors, alumni, that how can we enjoy life after BTech. But I was finding that many of them were planning to go abroad, many of them were there doing higher studies or doing jobs at higher salary packages. Whenever I used to interact with them, I used to find that they might be doing successful things in their own mind, but they were not happy. I thought, how can I enjoy my life after BTech? Somehow I had interaction with some Gandhian people in Delhi, Gandhi Peace Foundation. They had a program of volunteers in rural technology. I thought, can I use my technology education, use my science education for rural people? I interacted with my parents. I said, I have a plan to work in a village. They said, how come? How will you do that? I said, no, this is my determination. I'll go to villages. I belong to Amritsar. They said, okay, if you want to go in villages, do something in Himachal Pradesh, because they also knew that there's nothing to be done in Punjab, because Punjab villages are very prosperous. It was in their mind also. But then we had a conference at IIT Delhi. The conference was organized by different departments in IIT. It was taking technology to villages. It was a 3-day conference. There, most of the speakers, they said, if we have to take technology to our villages, engineers must go to villages and live there only. Then only they will be able to develop technologies which are useful there. I also got another idea that it is not a job of one person. I need a team. It was fortunately, I got 3 more friends who were quite senior to me. One was Dr. Mahesh Sharma, who was doing PhD from IIT Delhi, and he did his MTech from BHU 10 years before. He was 10 years senior to me. The other was Dr. Rakesh Pokhli, who did his nuclear physics PhD from Purdue University. He was teaching at IIT Kanpur, but he was thinking that I have to work for villages. That's why he came to that conference. And the 4th one was from BHU IT. He was Ashok Rai, and he was also thinking of. We came together and we decided that we will go and work in villages for some time. So where should we go? One thing was, we should go in a tribal area instead of go to normal rural areas. We should not go in an area where language will be a problem. Going to Nagaland, Mizoram or Andhra Pradesh or Gujarat will be a difficult thing, where we can go with our own Hindi, because I was from Punjab, two were from Uttar Pradesh, one from Western UP, other from Eastern UP, and one from Delhi. Rakesh Pokhli was from Delhi. Immediately after my final year, I got admission in PhD at IIT without doing my post-graduation, because I needed some money for my initial expenditure. That was the scholarship which I got from IIT Delhi. We decided about Chhattisgarh and Jharkhand. Now they are Chhattisgarh. At that time they were part of Madhya Pradesh and Bihar only, where you can go to tribal areas, but language will not be a major problem. And we decided that we will go to an interior village where the economy is not dependent on cities, and people are not daily passengers going every day to city and for their earning. They are really dependent on their forests and their fields. At that time, we spent about 3 months in Chhattisgarh and Jharkhand to find out the exact location. At Ranchi University, there was Professor L.P. Vidyarthi, who was head of anthropology department. He suggested us about a village, Bishunpur, which is 125 kilometers from Ranchi, and it used to be community development program since 1962, and all the central government schemes had gone to that village, but not at all, no development was there. So he advised us that there is a road. You are in an interior village, but not in isolation. Every day there is a bus which goes from Ranchi to that place. And when we went there, we saw the natural beauty. It was a valley kind of area. All offices were there, forest office, there was a high school, there was a bank, and nearest petrol pump was 60 kilometers. All the officers used to be posted as a punishment posting. किसी को सजा देनी है तो उसको वहाँ and all the officers used to try to shift from that place to another place. There we started our work, and all four of us got married after starting that work, and because of cooperation of our life partners, there was no electricity in that village. When there is no electricity, there is no light, there is no fridge, there is no TV, and there is no water supply also. You have to get water directly from well itself. And we really enjoyed our life with our families, with our children, and I spent there 10 years up to 92 December. Unfortunately, my younger brother expired. That's why I had to come back to Amritsar. Otherwise, I really enjoyed the life which I dreamt. I had a dream in my final year. Just to share with you.
4 exceptional stories ahead of us. 4 examples that just exemplify the fact that life is everything that's happening to you when you're busy making plans. And this is wonderful, but we'd like to know, we're standing here at the brink of starting our new journey, all right? And a graduation ceremony is typically where a speaker addresses thousands of students and tells them that, you know what, individuality is the key to your success. So, would you have something to add to that?
No, I think that pretty much says it. That try and be yourself. I mean, I always tell people that a copy is never as good as the original, no matter how good the copier is. Right. So try and be an original. Try and look at what you want, like in other people, and instead of copying them, try and change yourself to have that attribute. Right. But ultimately, you are most comfortable as yourself. You are best as yourself, and everyone is unique, which is true. And so be yourself, do what you need to do. That is how you will perform best. You can't do it trying to copy someone, unless you're dancing or something. Then you want to copy Shah Rukh Khan or whatever.
And Madanji, how would you advise the students here to choose in this?
I will say only few words. कि किस्मत जो है, जिसको हम किस्मत कहते हैं, वो हर एक आदमी के दरवाजे पे दस्तखत देती है आके, जिन्हों पंजाबी भाग भूत न कहते हैं। जो जागते हैं उनको मिल जाती है, जो सोते हैं उनके दरवाजे से आगे से निकल जाती है। तो आप जागते रहो, वो जो भाग भूतना वो जरूर आएगा। अपॉर्चुनिटी एक बार मिलती है। जब आदमी पानी में डूब रहता है तो 3 चांस मिलते हैं। तो यहाँ डूबने वाली सिचुएशन नहीं, यहाँ तो आगे राइज करने वाली है। इसलिए एक बार चांस नेचर हर एक को देती है। वो कब चांस आता है वो समझने की बात है, उसको क्लिक करने की बात है। हमारे हाउस में कहते हैं कि अगर आपने बोलना है तो कह दिया आई ऑफ द स्पीकर, तो आपने उस भाग पूतने की जो आंख है ना उसको पकड़ना, तो you will get the opportunity. Everybody gets the opportunity to rise and catch that opportunity. I am sure you will all rise in the field if you go with this dedication to rise.
How many in this room would like to be entrepreneurs? How many would like to do something by themselves, their own business? No one?
There's one.
1, 2,
3, 4.
3.
The shy entrepreneur.
4.
Yeah. So we were talking a little bit earlier about leadership. Leadership does not necessarily mean being a prime minister of a company, of a country, or a president of a country. Leadership can be in whatever you choose to do for yourselves. We ran a program once in our company for leadership, and the person who came to deliver the talk was surprised when he found, this was in one of our smaller companies, when he found 250 people in the room. He's saying, normally I go and give a leadership talk, I have 5 people or 6 or 8 in a room. You have 250 people. So actually that company had only 250 employees. We brought everybody who was in that company into the room for exposure and a lecture on leadership. There were people who were serving tea, people who were cleaning the floors, people who were the CEO of the company, the finance guys, everybody was in there. And the belief was that if you do the right thing, you can be the best at what you do. And when they say if you want to truly be a leader, they expect you to do the right thing. The real test is to do the right thing when nobody's watching. That's the test of a good leader. So if you have chosen a path for yourself, as both the earlier speakers said, be yourselves. Be true to yourselves. Don't just be yourselves. Try and set for yourself a path which has is a foundation of values. Because this is unfortunately something that has got shaken up across the globe, especially in a nation like ours, as we said, has been teaching the world the value system. We seem to have slipped back ourselves. It is important that we focus a little bit on things like ethics, on public service, on doing the right thing. And you need to do it not just to show others, not only because others are doing it, but because it is the right thing to do. And that itself, you don't have to tell people. People will know. People will see it by themselves. And that makes a big difference.
Right. And
I'll just add one thing to it. Normally, during our school and colleges, we concentrate on our individual performance. And just the individual performance is not going to help us in the next stage. Try to find out the like-minded people around you. Try to find out the friends with whom you can have that complementary role. You have some strengths, you have some weaknesses. Others also similarly have some strengths, some weaknesses, where a team of 3, 4, 5 people come together, then it becomes easy to handle projects successfully. That is just one thing.
Absolutely, the VC is right. I'm sorry to interrupt. The best asset that you have is sitting around you right now, by the way, or back in your hostel or your classroom, wherever you are. The friends you make in schools and in colleges, in universities, will stand by you if they're good friends like a rock. And these are also the people, by the way, who will whack you on your head if you're doing the wrong thing. And that is important too. A good friend is one who will be able to criticize you if you're doing something wrong. And likewise, you should do the same. But please remember, when you tell people, when you're being critical of people, be critical of things, not of people. Be critical of what they have done, not of them. So that people can actually correct and improve themselves, as you should yourselves. That distinction is important in life. Makes a big, big difference. With somebody you have a fight today, you can be just absolutely fine with the same person tomorrow. And that is important in friendship. To learn to give is very, very important.
Yeah, I was just going to say one thing. Just in continuation of this theme, try and be the kind of person where you like yourself. If you think of it, it's a very simple statement, but let your actions, your thoughts actually be of that person there you think you would like. And the other thing I would say is simply, when you put your head on the pillow at night, just give yourself a minute to say, what have I done today that has made a difference, or has helped someone, or whatever, or what's the good deed that I've done today. And if you can think of 1 or 2 things that you've done, you actually sleep much better. And it doesn't take very much. If everyone does one good deed a day, you'll actually change the world in some ways. So life is actually very simple. Don't try and make it too complex. It also is very simple to be a good kind of person, but you have to do it. No one else can do it for you.
Saying make 2 people happy every day. One person you know and one yourselves, every single day.
One more thing. Since we are on this theme, I have one more thing. See, if you realize I do that quite often, you realize when you're going to sleep that you were unnecessarily rude or you were unnecessarily rough with someone. Whether you were upset about something and you took it out on someone else or whatever, and that happens very often. I always tell myself, when I get up tomorrow, I'm going to go to them and say, I'm sorry. I didn't really mean it. you'd be amazed how much of a difference that makes to that other person and to your relationship with that other person. So it's really, again, I mentioned the small things that are very important. Or most of us manage the big things because, we are smart enough to understand them, but it's the small things that actually make all the difference.
And on a lighter note, since you said you can talk in Punjabi or English, Punjabi is the mother tongue for most of you? And why do you think that's the case? Because your mothers are able to speak this language. Fathers don't get a chance, by the way, most of the time. But on a serious note, I do want to make a comment. I presume none of you have kids right now.
Officially.
Right. I think one important message I would like to give, since we have a gathering of young people, one of the big issues that we have in our society right now, over the last year or so, we are seeing crime against women escalate. And I'm not even sure if it's escalating or always there, it's just being highlighted more in the media. I think it's important that we think a little bit about this. One, how do we treat children at home? Now, you will have kids sooner or later. How do you treat your kids at home? Do you treat your daughter and son the same? I don't know how you were treated, so you need to think in your homes. Is that the kind of culture you built in your home where the sons and daughters are treated the same? And by the way, the women are the smarter half. We do need to understand that. They're smart enough to let the men think that they're smarter most of the time. They are truly the smarter half, and it is a shame that we're not fully utilizing this fantastic asset that we have of the female mind in India. Of course we're using it, but minimally. It is not being fully exploited. It is not being given an equal opportunity, and that is a real shame. So one change I think we would like to see in our society is, we keep talking of inclusion. This is one of the biggest inclusion we can make. It's half the population. Why would you not use that? Or why would you not use it productively at least?
So on a lighter note, since you're talking of North India and Punjab, a lot of the mothers here have a disease, it's called putritis.
Oh. Which is why I'm talking to these young people.
These are definitely words which will inspire and I hope will be internalized by all of you going home today. And before we end this, we're going to throw it open to you. I'm going to stop talking now and going to pass on the baton to you. So anybody, any questions that you want to ask this esteemed lot of dignitaries with us today?
Oops.
Anybody? All right, 1 second. All right, what's your name
Mic lying
and
down there.
what's your question?
My name is Rajvinder Singh. I am from CT Institution Jalandhar. Sir, I want to ask, as we are studying BTech, we are in BTech final year, and during our BTech we have to study at least 40 to 42 technical subjects. But after BTech, when we have to go for a job, every company take a aptitude test. But the test taken by the company is not a technical one. It is logical or reasoning or quantitative. Sir, I want to ask why it is not a technical one.
So, has everyone understood the question? Yes. All right.
Okay, so let me put it this way. See, if I have to recruit from a technical institute, the technical knowledge is a assumption that I make, that I only go to that institute where I think they are technically capable people. So I don't have to question the technical capability. What I do have to look at is cultural fit. Will the person take initiative? Is that person going to fit in with my organization in terms of what I want from people who come in? Right, that's really, so when you say they take a lot of tests that are non-technical, I'm sure some take some technical tests. The reason for that is that they're trying to get if I use the word, a psychological profile of the candidate to try and feel comfortable that this person will culturally fit into my organization or has the capability to grow in the organization or whatever their internal norms are that they have for their recruitment.
So what companies have started saying more and more is, we are hiring attitudes. We're not hiring any specific skills, because skills can actually be taught, but it takes a lot to change somebody's attitude. I actually mentioned 10 attributes that companies look for when they hire a little bit earlier in the afternoon. but it's broadly around this, your ability to problem solve, teamwork, individual initiative. So there are a bunch of things that are important, which are incidentally important for you to be successful in life in any case. So that's what companies want to see.
In every institution, whether you go as doctor, you go for law, you go for other studies, or for legal studies, there you stay for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, whatever the period may be. Your only mental framework is done to that subject. That is general framework. But after all, when you come out, you have to show your interest in either of the one or two. And that concentration comes only when your train is put on the track. So the period you spent in the institution is to make your brain only for that subject as a whole. And then you pick up out of that which suits you more. And that is your mastery. And that is the aptitude. The question is put to you, Mr. Malhotra and Mr. Sunil has replied. So your aptitude will develop later on. I did my law graduation. I only studied the books, but my aptitude developed later on when I came in this society. Whether I would be a legal lawyer for taxation, for labor, international law, civil law, criminal law, revenue law. So that aptitude dwells with the passage of time. And that is the real aptitude which people want. People don't want jugglery of all things, they want master of one thing. Even if you go to the doctor, to engineer, first you ask, what is your specialization? So that is what they ask, what is your aptitude? So once aptitude is developed, you are master of the things.
Yeah, I just want to add a little bit to that, especially engineering. So when you do engineering, what I understood you to imply is that I'm doing chemical engineering or electronics or whatever, and that I know chemical engineering. Engineering actually is a little different to that. Yes, you know chemical engineering, you know electronics, you know a little bit of a lot of other things, but engineering is a way you think about problems. Engineering basically, what I see, it's logical, and a big problem, you are able to reduce the number of variables so that it's manageable and take a decision. That's what engineering really teaches you, and that's what companies are trying to find out, that have you learned that? And how good are you at looking at a problem that seems really big, but you're able to look at the major variables and then come to a solution.
In fact, now the better institutions are recognizing that their role is not to give you solutions to problems. Their role is to give you the ability to address problems and find solutions. And it seems a little bit easy to say, but this is a really, really complex ability which you gather over time and experience, and which is why some of the tests of the companies are to do with logic and attitude and interpersonal skills, etc.
All right, I hope that answers your question.
Just one last thing.
All right.
Long answer to a short question.
The toughest,
Yeah.
in fact, I remember at IIT, my toughest exams were open book exams. You know, they were the toughest exams because you had to go find out ratta maar ke nahi
Hand at the
hoga.
back.
You had to go find out where the answer was, and there were some tough questions, you know, and you know, it actually taught us a lot, because that's what life is. It's not, okay, I've learned it, now I can regurgitate it and it comes out.
Okay.
All right. And we have another question by
Onkar Bedi, ISF College of Moga. Sir, I am very much surprised then when I am getting opportunity in joining this discussion, and meanwhile when I am thinking that the destination for higher education is our topic of today's discussion, and in that tomorrow's night when I was in my hostel, and I think that instead of representing my views and why I am not collecting whole the views of my hostler friends, and I have a lot of list with me that what they want to join and what they want changes in the education and what they need to more changes in the education styles. And one of the quote that I am collecting from the New Jersey side that there is something changes, but in India there is something like that. The economic conditions matter in the education field. The quote is that when in 1997 New Jersey department elaborate one of the aggressive education thing that all students, no matter which district or school they attend, will be able to achieve the core curriculum content standard because they will have unlimited access to people to a vast array of curriculum and instructions and to inform and ideas no matter where they exist, and district use the aid to provide professional development opportunities. These are
we have
the
9
lines.
minutes to go, by the way.
Yes, sir. So
Please
what's
try to
the
get to a question.
What's
It'll be
the
helpful if you get to a question.
yes, ma'am. Actually, why I mentioned this quote here, that a lot of these students, जिनसे मैंने interaction की, they said, I need mukti from education. Okay, maximum students, because they feel that we are getting stress from the education. We are getting bored. Our teachers are not more interactive. We need video conferences. We need a very good interaction with students. The teachers interact with only with the topper students, not with the mediocres and other one. What is the solution to higher up the education?
Okay. Very, very good question, by the way. This is a serious issue right now, and it's a question that the country is asking itself. What do we do with our current education system? Our current system has not met 2 objectives. 1, it's not provided universal education. 2, it's provided good education only at the very top end. On the top end is very, very good. If you go across the world today, you look at companies in every field, banking companies, technology companies, doctors, lawyers, accountants. In each one of them, you'll find a few Indians right at the top. And these are Indians who studied in India, by the way, in the same education system, including one sitting on my right. He's one of the most successful entrepreneurs across the world and studied in India. And there are, like him, there are many, many others. But that access, for some reason, remained only at the top. As you might know, India is now talking for the last few years about a new education policy. And if that policy comes to be, I'm reasonably confident we will see not just a change, we will see a pretty dramatic change where education is much more interactive, education is much more current. There are many parts of our curriculum which were designed 50 years ago which have not been scrapped because new things keep getting added. So you feel this big burden when you walk in of these heavy books and all of this stuff. But there is stuff which is now, as they call, a self-evident truth. You don't need to teach a small kid how to program a TV. They just learn it naturally, as do all of you. So we need to continue to refresh our curriculum. We also need to improve the exposure that you have to real life in the discipline that you've chosen. Post-education, what would it be like? So increasingly, more and more universities, and Punjab Technical University itself, by the way, has been discussing this. I can tell you, in the last 2 or 3 board meetings that we've had. So we've actually set in motion, we hope, a process where we will put students through a system where the exposure is much more to real life and less focus on teaching by rote. Because by cramming, anybody can cram. It doesn't show any special skill. It doesn't show your ability of logic or deduction. So we're saying push people so they start to apply their own minds. And that also becomes more interesting. In one of the programs that is being started in another university, we were actually discussing this only last week. There's a program being introduced called Joy of Engineering. That you'd spend the first 2 weeks, not in a classroom, but learning what is all the fun stuff you can do with engineering, which you can do it yourself. So I don't know whether it will happen in a month or 3 months or 6 months or 2 years, but I'm reasonably confident within the next 5 years we will see a lot of dramatic changes take place The full impact, of course, will take time because we also have to reconfigure all of the machinery which is delivering this right now. And it's a big ship. It's very hard to change direction, but it will. Because on the one hand is people like yourselves raising this question. On the other hand is the user of this education. The society, industry is saying, when I hire people, why should I have to spend months training these people? Why do they not know this when they're in colleges? Why are they not taught all this stuff? So the direction is absolutely right. I wish we could do it quicker and faster.
Thank you.
I want to add one more point, and I think it's important. While yes, the system has to be changed and will continuously be in some state of change,
Yep.
because things will change on what's needed. I think today, quite unlike in our time, with the internet, you have to learn.
Access is already there. Yeah.
You have to learn. So
Absolutely.
the onus is on you, not on your teachers.
Yep.
You may like math, you may get a bad math teacher, but you have to learn it, and you can go to the internet and learn. So when people say the system is not teaching me, I think the problem is not the system, the problem is you. So you have to motivate yourself to learn. You can go to the internet and learn everything today. In fact, when I talk to my doctor, before I talk to him, he says, you already know, you must have read it on the internet. Right. So it's all available. You're really lucky. In our time, you had to go to libraries, which were far and very difficult to get to. Now everything is there. In fact, my grandchildren, my daughter doesn't listen to my wife. In fact, Google Masi is more important.
So I can give you two slides, by the way, which will teach you all of this stuff. One is called Coursera, and the other one is called edX. How many of you in this room have heard of edX? Anyone here? Of edX? edx.com, edX. Anyone heard of Coursera? Okay, this is not good, by the way. So you should know this. You can get the best lectures of the best faculty in the world. In the world, I'm saying. It's available to you and it's free of cost.
And video.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the
Dr.
perceptive
Vini.
question. But before we proceed, I'd just like to insist and request all the students to encapsulate their questions in 2 sentences because we are running short of time. All right? And next up, who would like to
probably
ask
the
a
last
question?
one.
Some female student, girl student. Yes, okay.
Yeah.
You would like to ask.
Ladies first.
I'm Sonakshi Bhargav from City Group of Institute, Shahpur. So I want to ask a question that why higher education is much better in foreign universities as compared to that in India? Although the earlier study is better in India as compared to the foreign education, but not higher education. Why it's so?
So most higher education, master's level, requires some research. And unfortunately, the way it works today is, unless you're doing theoretical research, research requires a fair amount of investment in some very expensive equipment to be able to do it. And that's one reason why you see more people going overseas to do research. But there is a definite acceptance of that. The government of India is actually working very hard to try and change that and make Indian universities more research oriented, and hopefully when that happens, you'll be able to. One of the things that I find we don't do, which we should do, is what I call relevant research. Why aren't we doing research in areas that make a difference to us? Why aren't we doing research to find a cure for tuberculosis or dengue or malaria? Why are we dependent on the West? Because there, that impacts us a lot more than it impacts them. In fact, I'm on the board of center at Berkeley. It's called CENDT, Center for Emerging and Neglected Diseases. And for them, emerging and neglected diseases are tuberculosis, dengue, malaria, for which a US pharmaceutical company will not give them any research grant. So we are trying to see if we can connect them to Indian universities and to Indian pharmaceutical companies so their research can be productionized into India. Those molecules can be used here in India. But yeah, you're right. It starts with the quality of people who are going for research. They don't come here because research is better abroad. So the master's level students are normally not as good as the undergraduate students. And it's a big vicious cycle that you have to break out of right
So
now.
one of the initiatives at the Punjab Technical University, by the way, is on research. So when I said there is a whole lot of things being planned, this is one of this. Research focus is one of them. And so I think the Vice Chancellor can tell you better than me.
Can I have the last question because of
Oh yeah,
time?
I was going to just post the last question. Anybody else for the last question?
We'll take one at the back. There's one at the back.
All right.
Sorry, all the guys sitting in front didn't get a chance. Well, two or three of you did.
Good afternoon, sir. This is Mandeep Kaur, the research scholar from Punjab Institute of Technology, Kapurthala. And my question is basically that according to Ease of Doing Business Index, which is given by World Bank, India still ranks 132nd out of 185 economies. So, I mean, this idea is going to shatter many budding entrepreneurs. So, what is it that you have to say? I mean, what would be the future plans and what is the need that, what difference is required in India?
You know, to an entrepreneur, whether you're 132nd or 32nd should make a difference. If you have the passion and you're convinced you have an idea that's going to change the world, you will do it. You know, the restrictions, yes, they are a headache and they give you more trouble, but they are not the overriding reason why you don't do it. Right. Having said that, I agree, there are lots of things we should do that should make just normal day-to-day business very easy. The reason we are ranked so low is that every time you want to do something, you got 50 different restrictions that come up, and restrictions that actually sort of countervail each other. So no matter what you want to do, you may never be in compliance because you're following one act and you're going against another act, stuff like that. That has to be cleaned up. And unfortunately, it's from the past. It just takes time to clean it up. Someone's got to have that priority. There's a new Companies Act that's supposed to be on the cards that is likely to come up. It'll replace the old Companies Act. Hopefully that'll clean up a few things, etc., etc. So, you know, it'll take time. But for an entrepreneur, it's not a restriction.
So there are three things people talk about when they talk about the big problems in India. There are many of them. The three top ones always are, number one is corruption. Number two is too much red tape. And number three is lack of physical infrastructure. The interesting thing is, each of them is also an opportunity. If you actually look at what is the reality, in spite of all of these, India is still the second fastest growing economy in the world. So I don't think we need to worry too much about our problems. We need to try and focus on what we need to focus a little bit, as Arjun said, on what each one of us can actually do to turn this entrepreneurial streak to benefit the nation. And there is enough noise being made now, both by individuals, by companies, by the media, pushing back on corruption with the government and other public institutions, that for the first time in many years, there is a focus to say, by the way, maybe we need to change some things. And some things have started to change. Actually, if you look back at 25 years ago, things are a lot better today. They're still not good enough though, but they are better. And like the other stuff I mentioned, the direction is right. Only I don't know if we have the patience to allow this pace at which it is changing. I hope it would change faster, but people are still doing what they will do. They will make the best effort within the environment to be successful. Can we take the last one here?
All right, if you all are not pressed for time.
Very good afternoon to everybody. Sir, I'm Pritinder Kaur. I'm columnist, The Tribune Jobs and Careers.
You're not a student?
I am a student of...
You're a student, okay.
I am a student of MPhil Mass Comm and Journalism here.
Okay.
Sir, when I write for careers, especially offbeat careers, I always find my students always standing to read on Wednesday. Yesterday I wrote on 2020 century offices, like how 2020 century offices will look like. Now comes that, what characteristics you want in 21st century engineer? So because we are on the verge. So the question is, what characteristics?
I think this
I
question
thought you answered that. In terms of,
this question should be asked from the students. What will they contribute to this rising century of 21st?
So yes, means 21st century engineers and budding engineers, I must say. So when my jury is sitting in front of us, they will be choosing us what characteristics we should have and what characteristics my companies are choosing. So we should be matching to their levels. Thank you.
So the problem is whenever I ask someone in the company when I used to work to give me a job description, after he gave it to me and I read it, I said, I can't get this person because everyone wants God to come down and do that work. God doesn't exist. Human beings are around. So you've got to tell me what limitations I can accept in the job description to be able to get that done. Right. And so I think if I look at what we are looking for, if you ask me, ideally, I want someone who thinks out of the box but follows rules, follows the norms, follows the structure, especially when I'm looking at programming. Right. Now, it's an oxymoron because someone who just follows the norms is not going to be a charismatic kind of a programmer who will write a program that will change the world. He's got to have some level of chaos. Right. So again, it's a very gray area, and that's why you've got to do all those tests that he talked about to see who I think will fit in, and a lot of it is gut. So that sort of hurt me.
As much as we'd like to continue the questions and keep it rolling, we have to end this. All good things come to an end, and so will this discussion. Thank you so much, our esteemed dignitaries, for taking out time from your very, very busy schedule and giving us the honor of having you all on board today. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It was an honor hearing all of you.
ये दे देते हैं
हाँ
दिल्ली